Hello dear students. In last video we have studied about how PN junction diode is formed. Today we are going to study two different modes of operations for PN junction diode. As we can see in this image, there are two types of PN junction diode are there: forward bias mode and reverse bias mode. Here, if we consider any type of diode, it can be connected across a battery in two ways. On basis of that, the two types of diodes can be seen. First one is forward bias and second one is reverse bias. What is the difference between forward bias and reverse bias diode? You can see in these two diagrams, if P type of a semiconductor material is connected to the positive terminal of the battery and N type is connected to the negative terminal, then that mode of operation of diode is called as forward bias mode. And for reverse bias mode, this thing is reverse. N type is connected to the positive terminal of the battery while P type is connected to the negative terminal of the battery. So this is how forward bias mode and reverse bias mode are to be discussed. In case of forward bias mode, the barrier potential, or we can say width of depletion region, is reduced. Okay, there is reduction in the barrier potential for the forward bias mode, while in case of reverse bias mode, barrier potential is increased. It can be seen increasing. Because of that, the current through forward bias diode is very large. Okay, it is of the order of 10 raised to minus 3 amperes, means milliampere. In case of reverse bias mode, as barrier potential is increased, therefore large flow of current is not seen. The amount of current flowing through this reverse bias mode is very small. It is of the order of 10 raised to minus 6 ampere, that is microamperes. Okay, तर फॉरवर्ड बायस मोड आणि रिव्हर्स बायस मोडमधला हा डिफरन्स आहे, ज्यात आपण बघू शकतो की बॅरियर पोटेन्शियल जे असेल ते फॉरवर्ड बायसमध्ये रिड्यूस होते आणि रिव्हर्स बायसमध्ये इन्क्रीज होत आहे. नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू सी व्हॉट इज द प्रोसेस फॉर फॉरवर्ड बायस मोड. हियर वी हॅव ऑल्सो IV characteristic diagrams for both, for forward bias as well as for reverse bias. As I have told you that in case of forward bias, P type is connected to positive, and for reverse bias, that P type is connected to negative terminal of the battery. Okay, here we should conduct cathode and anode also. P type is cathode and N type is anode for such batteries, because opposite polarity of ions are formed in this type of semiconductor material. Now we will talk about forward bias mode in detail. When the depletion region is decreases, or the width of depletion region decreases, the PN junction will offer very low resistance. Okay, because of that it will create a path for high current to flow across the junction. ओके, म्हणजेच जेव्हा रेजिस्टन्स कमी होईल, विड्थ जेव्हा डिक्रीज होते डिप्लिशन रिजनची, त्यामुळे लार्ज अमाऊंट ऑफ करंट हे जंक्शनमधून फ्लो होणार आहे. अँड बिकॉज ऑफ दॅट वी कॅन सी लार्ज अमाऊंट ऑफ करंट कॅन बी फ्लो थ्रू द फॉरवर्ड बायस मोड. नाउ इफ वी सी द IV characteristic diagram, in this diagram the current is very low initially, and at certain point the value of current goes on increasing. Okay, there is a sharp peak, or sharply the rise in the current value is seen. Okay, on the y-axis there is current, and on x-axis we can see the voltage is there, forward voltage. The point where the sudden rise in the current is seen, that point is called as knee point. Corresponding voltage at this point is called as knee voltage. For germanium, the value for knee voltage is about 0.3 volt, and for silicon we can see such diagrams for silicon diode, often the value for silicon diode is about 0.7 volt. Okay, in our diagram also we can see for silicon diode the knee voltage is 0.7 volt. For forward bias mode, when a sharp peak of knee voltage is there, the value for forward voltage is 0.7 volt, and beyond that the forward bias region occurs. In this region the current is very large. Okay, current value is very large because diode is effectively become short circuit, and beyond knee point the value of large current is seen. But this current is not limited. Okay, we have to get some limit over this current value. For that purpose resistors are used. Okay, these resistors are used to limit the current. Okay, flow of current is limit by using resistors. And when flow of current is limit by using resistor, because when current exceeds the specified value it can damage the diode. Okay, and the reason behind that is Joule heating. Okay, because of Joule heating the resistors will helpful in preventing the damage for the diode. Now the second mode for operation of PN junction diode is reverse bias mode. In this diagram N type is connected to positive terminal while P type is connected to negative terminal. Okay, N side is cathode and P side is anode. Here depletion region width is increased. Okay, and that's why diode will act as high resistance. But when we can see when depletion region increases, no current should flow through the diode, but practically the very small amount of leakage current must flow through this circuit, and this value of leakage current of the order of 10 raised to minus 6 ampere. That means few microampere current is also flowing through this diode. Now in the IV characteristics of this diagram, reverse breakdown region is given and reverse bias region is also shown, and obviously this graph is also IV characteristics. Vertical axis is y-axis showing reverse current on it, and the horizontal one x-axis is showing reverse voltage. When reverse voltage increases, there is not much change in the value of reverse current while increase in reverse voltage, but at some point the value of current, reverse current, is rapidly seen increasing. There is sudden rise in the current through the junction because charge carriers gain some extra heating and they will cross the barrier and current will flow. But the value for reverse voltage is very large as compared to forward bias mode, and this diode further no longer behaves like a diode, and that point is called as avalanche breakdown. Okay, and the region further this point is called as reverse breakdown region. That's why reverse bias diode will act only in reverse bias region. Okay, reverse bias region नंतरचा region जो असेल तो reverse breakdown region असेल, and diode will not behave like a diode in particular region. So this is about forward bias mode and reverse bias mode in case of PN junction diode, and that's all for today. Thank you.